one reason I don't wear the Kingston vest all the time. You want me to autograph this
You know,
for
I'm
you?
doing this wrong. I have found out something about this little thing I've got.
Thank you.
Do you know, it's got arms on it?
Joe.
So, is the table high enough to?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
There you go.
How
Look
are
at that.
you?
Huh.
Tired.
Shoot.
This is a lot better.
Yeah, no doubt.
I can, if I have to, I can maneuver it around and get it.
Yeah.
16 days. No, that's good. No, we'll go 14 on the last. I just got to be careful getting up and getting down. I'll have to fill your water bottle. I've worked.
I don't
I've
go
had 2 days
out
off.
here in Roane County anymore. Those people.
That's pretty normal. Actually, that's more than I actually
Yeah, that's
get.
not a very good one at all.
Well, any effort to separate the table. Now you go up to fair, they got the table separated, they got everything, and the people coming in with masks.
Yeah, oh yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Good.
good.
Good
Good to
day.
see you.
You too.
Everything
Thank Mayor.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Everything going well?
It's going great.
Good.
It's going good.
Good.
Miss you all.
Yeah, we miss you.
Thank you. Tony, good to see you moving around, buddy.
Hey, I'm moving on it, girl.
I know. I'm tickled.
I asked him if he was going to Florida.
I'm fixing to go.
Said he had his. said
See
his-
ya.
Good to see you.
You too. Take care.
Said his,
Randy,
get
who?
his county ready. You know, I don't.
Is now in the conference.
He just left work, so he's driving.
Whether I'm hooked up.
Hey, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I guess it'd just be us.
City of Kingston.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
Then I don't have to
This
do
work
anything.
session tonight.
Got a lot.
Like
Got a password.
everyone to please stand.
COK
I'll just ask
wireless.
Mr. Brown if he would
Ready for it.
say the
COK
pledge.
wireless, all one
And Mr.
word.
McPherson, if he'd lead us in the invocation, please. Oh, no. Yeah, whichever one.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you that we are able to gather here to do the work of the city of Kingston. We pray your blessings upon these leaders as they deliberate to make decisions. We pray for this community, for the illnesses of those who are not with us tonight, and for the illnesses that are spreading through this community. And we pray that you would lift this COVID-19 away from us. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, first order of business, we got the NISA presentation by
COK
Train
wireless.
regarding the LED street and ball field light conversion and energy efficiency improvements. Ms. Nancy McBee.
Hello, everyone.
Should do it.
Nancy McBee with Train, and this is Owen Nevada with Train. We're both based out of Knoxville. Thank you for having us here tonight. Owen's got a little summary. This is basically the highlights of what we're gonna go through here. So we'll leave behind, so you've got something and you'll remember us, you know, next month when you're talking to the next company.
Thank you.
As you all know, we put out a request for proposal.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4. One should be here. If you'll leave one over there with Mr. Childs, he'll be here in just a little while. Okay, thank you.
As you all know, you put out a request for proposal a couple months ago for upgrading your ball field lighting, your street lighting, and any other additional energy efficiency improvements that a company like us can come in and help you with. And so we put together a proposal. Hopefully y'all taking a good look at that. And I guess tonight we're gonna just give an overview of why we would be a great partner for you. First of all, introductions. I'm Nancy McBee with Train, Owen Nevada with Train. Like I said before, based out of Knoxville. And we've worked on projects like this here in East Tennessee for about 15 years. Train does this type of project all over the country. In the state of Tennessee, we basically, Train got into this market, 15 to 17 years ago. We're going to list what your all's goals are stated in the RFP, what our approach to addressing these infrastructure upgrade issues, why you'd wanna choose us and what would happen next. The goals that you guys stated in your request for proposal, number one thing was reduce energy usage and costs associated with your street lights and your ball field lights. Also, identify other areas for improvement in energy efficiency, which we've got those included. Design a project that will yield a positive cash flow over a 20-year term. Minimize future costs associated. Number 5, achieve a high level of satisfaction among city. Maximize any potential grants or rebates that are out there for a project like this. And then the last one was assist Kingston with negotiations with REU regarding transfer of the ownership of the street lights and attachment costs. We're well aware of that. We just went through that with the city council, I guess, 2 years ago. Just a list of all your parks and facilities. Obviously, we've mapped out the locations.
Could you go back to that last one, please?
Absolutely. The little star is for buildings as opposed to parks and other areas.
Okay, so we've not included any of the wastewater and sewage buildings?
Not initially. Kind of, you know, when this was first talked about, obviously we were talking about the street lights, and then it kind of morphed from there into ball field lights. And I think kind of our approach now is what else can be done to keep this within a net savings and or break even kind of standpoint. I think that, you know, our position was that, you know, we're open to anything if we can do that. You know, when we first started looking at at doing the LED lights, it seemed pretty much consensus that there would be some savings there. It's just how much can you parlay those savings into doing other things that we may otherwise not be able to do. So.
And as you said, other locations, wastewater and others. Once you make a selection of a company, if we're so fortunate as for it to be us, obviously anything that's out there that's costing you money from a utility perspective, we want to get into it.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, and you, I'm sure you'll touch on this, but really until you get a company in and you can do that in-depth energy audit, you really don't know how far you can stretch it.
Right. We've not gotten down into the nitty-gritty of anything. At this point, it's really, we're just explaining how we're qualified to be the right people to choose to do that.
Okay.
Now, we have done some cursory site visits, which that leads me up to the next, you know, the things that you're looking at, parks and ball fields. This is lighting from some of your parks and ball fields. Street lights. And it's like I'm in the habit now, anytime I'm in any city, big city, little city, I'm taking pictures of their street lights. Because some of the really old street lights, you don't have any of the colossal ones that we see sometimes. But the newer street lights, and I don't know if you brought that in.
I did not bring it in.
We
I can
actually-
bring it in, I've got one in the car.
We actually brought one of the newer streetlights. They're slim, they're streamlined, slick, new. You know, you can tell when you've got LED lights versus some of the older technology like you guys have got. But again, we've seen some huge streetlights compared to these.
And you guys are probably aware, so one of the major benefits, and it technically goes back to your stated goals, when you start getting into citizen satisfaction, so when you get into the LED lighting platforms for streetlights, ball fields, et cetera, you know, external lights, they're much more focused, and so they don't give off that glare, you know, the sideways glare and the light pollution to surrounding communities and neighbors. So it makes for a much nicer, cleaner.
And we would love for you all to ask as many questions as we're moving along as possible. Don't hold questions till the end. Buildings. And even though buildings almost seem secondary in the request for proposal, we drove around and we've checked out a few things. We can make some major upgrades of the library lighting there. Heating and air conditioning. We are the leading manufacturers in the world of heating and air conditioning. And typically heating and air conditioning and lighting are the biggest energy users in your buildings. So we saw things that definitely need to be addressed and we would love to address. Train's approach, and I don't know that it was ever written anywhere in the request for proposal specifically, but our approach is called performance contracting. The Department of Energy has a definition for performance contracting. We did not make up performance contracting. There are companies out there called ESCOs, energy services companies, who do performance contracting. We are a certified ESCO according to NAESCO, which is the National Association of Energy Services Companies. And basically what it is, we're harvesting savings out of your utility budget to pay for the upgrades. And what makes it a performance guarantee is we're guaranteeing the performance that we put out there. If we estimate that you're gonna save $200,000 a year in your utility bills, and in any one year it's 180, Train actually has to write you a check for $20,000, cover that difference.
In that year.
And then start again the next year. So that's what performance contracting is, and that's the way we advise going to pursue this type of this project for you guys. What is performance contracting? You're not gonna change your annual operational budget. It's not gonna replace your capital budget. It just provides a third stream of revenue to help you fund things in your facilities and in your infrastructure, like your street lighting, to pay for those upgrades themselves. Another way to look at it, you're paying a certain amount in utility expense right now. You keep that budgeted, but in the future, you're taking a portion of those existing utility expenses and you're putting those towards these upgrades. And in many cases, a whole lot of cases, you're also producing a positive cash flow. The little red triangle would be potential positive net cash flow after you've paid for the annual cost of the project and you've paid your utilities, possibly have a positive cash flow on top of that. Down there in the writing below, the model only works if you're actually overspending on your utilities. We've gone into some municipalities and school systems where they were actually pretty efficient. Sevier County Government's a great example. We did an analysis for them, and when we came back after our audits, we were like, there's some things we could do, but it won't be in a self-funding environment. So at this point, we don't know for sure that it will be a self-funding project. We believe it could be based on what we know so far, and we'll get to when we would determine that.
And one question on that, and this may be again something you're going to cover, but I know years ago when I was on county commission in Anderson County, we did a similar project through Johnson Controls.
Yeah, they bought equipment from Train for that.
Okay, so we had the same type of situation up front. Obviously, they couldn't tell us for sure that the savings would be there until they did the energy audit.
Yeah.
The arrangement was, and the savings ended up being there, but the arrangement was, okay, we'll do the energy audit. If you go with us, then there's no charge for that. If you don't, then you would have to pay whatever it was, $50,000 or whatever. We negotiated with them to say, okay, if we back out because the savings aren't there, then there would be no charge for that. And they ended up going. So that may be how you would approach it.
And left the conference.
And that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like I want to jump ahead.
I know, let's just wait till we get to
Yeah,
that slide.
yeah, and
That's
I shoot
perfect.
these questions out as they come in my mind. So.
Absolutely. So where do all these savings come from? They come from electricity, from water, from gas, maintenance costs, operational materials. Also, the little piece of the pie down there on the lower right, potential grant funds, which when we get to slide number 25, we're going to show where we've done some research and there's 4 or 5 different places for grant funds that will help infuse this project. Touching on what you said just a minute ago, is the City of Kingston a candidate for performance contract? Okay, if there's room in your budget, in your utility budget for improvements, possibly. It's yet to be determined if it could fund itself. There's some data there on your current utility costs. I believe 4 months of that were during COVID, which we've seen people's utility costs, affected quite a bit from the advent of COVID. Other things that would make you a candidate for performance contract, you have deferred maintenance needs. Things that because of capital expense you put off that maybe you need to address. Do you have funding challenges? I guess everybody does. And are there any comfort issues in your building? Those are some other things that we look at. And when we do come in and do the audits of what you've got, what are we looking at? aged and inefficient heating and air conditioning, the biggest energy user. Dated lighting technology, you know, your street lights, ball field lights, lights in all your buildings, plumbing, automation and controls, building improvements like roofs. I believe there's some roofing needs in the city right now. And there are, you know, a few other things that we look at, but basically anything that's using utilities. We've had some school systems where we were able to replace CRT computer monitors with LCD computer monitors, and when rolled into a project like this, it paid for itself with the energy savings. You know, less electricity by those devices and less heat dissipation, which therefore required less air conditioning, and it all ends up adding up, and you get a lot of stuff within your current utility spend. And then we've got some slides of before and after pictures, and I know you all probably have seen these types of things before. It's just a street light before and after, before the LED and after the LED. Rooftop air conditioning units, an old one and then a new one. A good view on a ball field before the LED and then after the LED. Old, inefficient, antiquated, huge boilers replaced with these compact, efficient, high-efficient new boilers. Another before and after street light photo. And you can see how this is going to make your citizens happier. Another street photo. Still yet another street photo. I guess it shows up pretty good on that. Here's another with before and after, and one of our energy engineers gave this data, 250 watt, I guess it's high pressure sodium, which is 303 watts at 4.0. Basically the calculation of the before picture was $89 per year to run that old light. The calculation to run the new LED light is $25 per year. So not only does it look a whole lot better, it's costing you a whole lot less. And our process, I'll let you discuss this.
Jump in, because this addresses exactly what you were talking about. So, Train does something a little different than what you were exposed to with JCI. So, right now today, we're right up here. We're responding to your RFQ, right? You select Train, and the very next thing we do is we'll do a feasibility analysis. There'll be a little bit of site work, more number crunching by energy engineers. Let me say this. If your street lighting portfolio looks anywhere close to like what Rockwood's did in terms of your cost, you've got a street lighting project available, okay? But we need to go grind through those numbers. Once we come out of this stage and we've got a yes or a no, then we move to a preliminary audit. Our preliminary audit is the equivalent of an ASHRAE Level 2 audit, okay?
And ASHRAE is American Society of Heating, Air Conditioning, Refrigeration Engineers.
They are one of the guiding organizations for writing of codes, energy codes. We do that preliminary audit at no cost to you. We bear the full cost. In other words, we don't roll that cost forward. And we do that so that you know pretty much where you're at before you would make that financial commitment of exactly what you were talking about, which is that investment grade audit. We go on to further tell you is that if that investment grade audit does not prove out our findings in our preliminary audit, we're on the hook, not you. So we go at risk.
And that is a little bit different model than most ESCOs. I actually worked for Johnson Controls a bunch of years ago. That's the standard model. Coming to work for Train, and I've been here for 15 years, Train does a whole lot more on that preliminary audit where you see exactly what you're looking at before there's any financial commitment. And it is different, it's unique.
The way we look at it is we work for a global publicly traded company, and we're here tonight in a local government, public space. Everything that we do has got to be totally transparent. We've got to be able to stand up here tonight, tell you what we're going to do, go back and do it, come back and present. It's not a good scenario where we have to come back to a public body and say, oh, we kind of screwed this up, you know? So we do a whole lot of work up here, in pre-proposal days that's completely on us.
Obviously, the goal is a self-funding project. There's a series of audits, the feasibility, the preliminary, and then the investment grade audit. Through all those, we typically come back with a laundry list of everything that needs to be addressed at some point. And there's costs associated with each one of those needs and savings associated with each one of those needs. It's basically a laundry list of, we want to do this, we don't want to do this, and we blend together a project that, go ahead.
Yeah, and so we bring that information back. We don't tell you what to do. We show you all the data, and then collectively we'll work together to put something together that makes sense.
And things you might choose not to do as part of this project, well, you capital budget for it in 2 years from now or 3 years from now. But you'll have those numbers and you'll have like a game plan moving forward after you've done the project. And again, we blend together a project that will impact all the buildings, all of the streetlights, all the ball fields, and pay for itself over 20-year term. I think you said 20 years in the RFP. We do a lot of these that are 15 years. We've done some that are 12 years. If you go longer, like a 20-year term, you can clearly get more done. But that's your goal.
Yeah, I think, and touching on that, obviously from my standpoint, as the guy who puts the budgets together, you want to stay, you have that self-funding threshold, and it may be that, okay, we want to do A, B, and C, we can only do A and B to stay to this line, and I think that is definitely a target that we would shoot for. When you get beyond that, like you said, maybe you identify some things that, hey, we can't do this now, but we can do it later, and I think you just have to decide what makes sense. But we did put 20 in as kind of a norm, but if this is something you can do without that long of an obligation, I think we'd certainly be open to that. I'm not speaking for council, but that was why the 20 was in there, just kind of as a
That'll help you get more
as a norm on a lot of those.
20 makes sense when you talk about street lighting, but again, if we can get you a shorter term and still keep you budget neutral.
Absolutely.
But very rarely do we get put together a project and all the identified needs are able to be funded by a self-funded project. We came pretty close with Lenore City Schools about a year and a half ago. They got a ton of major upgrades, but it's because they were way out of whack on their energy costs.
They still had P12.
Yeah, they had ancient stuff, so they were able to get major HVAC equipment replacements. But the thing that can help all this in the cash flow is the opportunity for grants, rebates, and loan interest loan opportunities. I got some data from David regarding where you all stack up in regard to loans and grant money that's available through the USDA Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. With your all's current population, you are eligible for grant money at 15% grant. Based on your household income and all that. You're also eligible for low interest rates for the 20 years through the December 31st at 2.125%. And I believe after December 31st, those rates will be going up. And it would be a matter of can you lock in at that and get that rate without actually closing the project, because I doubt that by the end of December you would be in a position to actually book your job and get the financing.
But one of the things that we do is we work with you and your licensed financial advisor to figure out how's the best way to fund it.
There's some more grant money available through the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. It is specifically for parks and recreational areas. It's a 50% match grant. The application period for this year just ended for 2020. But how these projects go, we could apply for this next year's to get grant money on that part of it. Other potential funding, we've got some municipalities that are using CARES Act funding to do upgrades. If we address things in your heating and air conditioning systems in your buildings, you can use CARES Act funding for those types of upgrades. Also, also, TVA, they don't have a whole lot of rebates these days, but the rebate they do have available right now is if we look at your HVAC systems, and as part of this project, you want to do some upgrading and add some UVC light, which is people are implementing this to combat airborne contaminants such as COVID. TVA will give you money back if you put UVC light in your air handling units right now. And it is endorsed obviously by TVA, it's also endorsed by ASHRAE. There are other means of combating airborne contaminants. There are various ways to look at it, and we can look at all those, but there are rebates from TVA right now for the UVC light installations.
Does TVA not have the program for like these lights, just come in and change the light bulb?
They used to.
They did, and they don't anymore.
Okay.
So this is interesting. So, you know, let's just say for 10 years, TVA was incentivizing us all to save electricity. And now their rebate program has flipped. They're incentivizing us to electrify. So they'll actually give you rebate money if you switch fuels and go from natural gas to electric.
So if you want to add air conditioning to a gymnasium or someplace you don't have it, they'll give you some money for that.
Right.
So, one of the last places that, you know, we can identify readily is the IRS 179D tax credits. And from what I understand with legislation in place, sometime this fall, there'll be a determination whether they're gonna extend those, rebates, $20,000,
So-
next week for rebates for doing an energy project.
And what that is Train will take on the full responsibility of the engineering and the application associated with those tax credits. If you assign them to Train, and they'll rebate you back 25% of the net credit to Train in cash. And so it's a nice little deal, you know, and they absolve you from future auditing and so forth, so on and so forth. So
Yeah, the way it's written in the code that's written is those rebates are for the designer of the energy efficient.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it's for Train, but we give, you know, we handle it all, and then we give the money back to you, portion of it. And the other thing is, we have our own internal grant writer, and her name sounds like somebody off of a soap opera, but her name is Dr. Paula Love. And, she is our internal grant writing assistant, and she keys in on whatever opportunity we're looking at, if it's K-12 school system, municipality, and she comes back with way more grants than I'm able to find Google searching myself. It's what she does. Another one of your all's objectives was the, negotiations with Rockwood Electric. We shot
We
that
did a
in there.
screenshot, I mean, that's what we did with Rockwood Electric, and we know Kendall very personally.
Yeah, so originally on this, I had been there and done that, and then, so.
And what was that on with Rockwood? What was that project with Rockwood?
So this here this is a face copy of the actual contract, the new contract between the City of Rockwood and Rockwood Electric Utilities. And when you flip through all the pages of that, it walks you from start to finish with the transfer of ownership, the various fees, and the way that they structured their agreement. The project with the City of Rockwood started out with a street lighting project and morphed significantly. And so the best way to describe it was they started out with $1 million in lighting, and it was so lucrative. In other words, the return on that investment was so lucrative, they're like, well, can we go address all this HVAC and stuff? And so we ran all those models, and that was still had excess cash flow, and they're like, yeah, so now we need to get our city hall and our library, and we gotta get those buildings fixed up. And so they ended up doing a project that was $3.3 million that included, basically, when you walked into the front door of City Hall and looked up, you saw blue sky. So we took the roof off, we took the ceilings out, and we renovated the building top down, put new HVAC, new lighting, new ceilings, along with the street lighting in the cities, lighting at the airport, so on and so forth.
And I believe as part of our RFP response package, I believe there's a copy of the REU agreement in the appendix, along with a copy of the contract between Train and the City of Rockwood. And I believe we also put a copy of an annual measurement and verification report. Because at the end of every year, after doing one of these projects, we will come back in front of you guys, and if city council member changes, they will get a report on what was done and what the results are to date on that. And there's a copy of that report.
Actually, it's quarterly,
Well, there's a,
but
we don't come in front of the
we
city council.
reconcile annually, yeah.
Yeah, if there's gonna be a savings shortfall, it doesn't pop up at the end of the year and we're like, oh no, we've gotta write a check. We see it coming.
Right.
Everybody sees it coming. Key differentiators on a project like this, and I'll try to just sort of be quiet. There's companies, there's ESCOs out there, and actually, I don't know if this case applies, who don't actually, you know, who sub out everything. In this chart, you'll see in the first column is everything that is performed by Train. The middle column is performed by others, and then the final column is managed by Train. We either do everything mostly in-house with our personnel located here locally, or manage it. There's very few things that are subbed out to someone else.
Yeah, so let me redo this a little bit because you're being too polite. Nancy has a great statement. I'm gonna just go ahead and use it. So there's ESCOs out there that make nothing but money. Train's not one of them. We're a manufacturing ESCO. We have 2,300 associates in the state of Tennessee. We have a huge presence in the state of Tennessee. Our largest manufacturing plant is in Clarksville. We have a distribution center in Memphis. We have 6 commercial sales offices in the state with around 500 associates that look like us that are either engineers, technicians, so on and so forth. And the point is, when we get into one of these projects, you actually have trained personnel showing up on the job site. We never leave you stuck with a subcontractor or you know, third-party consultant.
And it's
That's
not trained
important.
personnel coming up from Atlanta or coming over from Nashville. It's trained personnel based, you know,
Knoxville.
30 minutes away from here. The next slide is manufacturing equipment. We leading manufacturer in the world of heating and air conditioning equipment, energy management systems. We distribute and can buy and sell other manufacturers. Let's just say you wanted a carrier rooftop unit instead of a Train rooftop unit. We would prefer the Train, but if you prefer the carrier, we're, as Ellen likes to say, vendor agnostic.
It's your program, your building, your money.
Now, on the lighting, we do not manufacture lighting. However, we are one of the largest purchasers of lighting in the United States. And I believe that there's some numbers on that here in a little bit. I'll let you, if you want to.
I'll take that. So, something you want to know about Train, and this is actually fairly recent, last 3 years. We've brought in corporate lighting teams. We have lighting design professionals that help us down on the ground. We look at everything. You know, circadian rhythms, and went through this whole thing in Rockwood about helping them choose a color for the street lights. They took a field trip to the city of Paris where we did that job. And we have professional people in the lighting industry to help you make those decisions. And we do mock-ups so you can see it firsthand and then make decisions from there. Train actually is the largest lighting company in the United States. In 2019, we did over $150 million of lighting solutions alone. And what that does, it puts us in a unique position. We have 7 strategic partners that we've lined up, you know, corporate to corporate buying programs. And so, like when we did the Rockwood project, we had direct access into Eaton. And so, you know, we bring products to bear that are gonna carry, you know, 10-year parts and labor warranties, totally top-tier product, top-tier warranties, easily serviced, attic stock left on hand.
And before you jump ahead back on the lighting, we have a corporate director of lighting strategy. Her name is Candace Cohen, and she is all things lighting. She was named to the top 40, under 40 in the lighting world, which I never heard of such a thing, but she is this lighting guru. She took me through a story last week when I was talking about this opportunity. She said, you need to tell them about the lawsuits at Dodger Stadium. And I'm like, what? You know, and evidently there's been 2 different lawsuits at Dodger Stadium because of fights in the parking lot after ball games. And one of the contentions is that Dodger Stadium hadn't provided a significant amount of lighting in their parking lots, and that was making them liable for the lawsuits. So it's,
Anyways, this section here, we've actually already touched on, okay? Ongoing measurement and verification support. By the way, that's completely up to you whether you want to keep that service, but if you want a annual guarantee, you would have to maintain your measurement and verification.
and the cost of that is covered by the savings also.
Cost is covered by the savings, but it's an annual expense. In other words, we include it in the cash flow so you can see where the money's coming from to pay for it. And we reconcile every year, and we settle every year. So if to Nancy's point, if we're $20,000 short, we write you a check. If you're $20,000 over, you keep it. We don't participate in any overage.
Why train? The 2 little logos up there, NAESCO, that's the National Association of Energy Services Company. The other logo is the Department of Energy. We're a 100-year-old engineering company, and we specialize in energy efficiency. Guaranteed results. We're here locally, we're here for the long haul. NAESCO accredited. With a little bit of research, there's 29 NAESCO accredited ESCOs in the United States. There's 6 that are actually active in the state of Tennessee. Only one of those responded to your RFP. It'd be us. The Department of Energy, DOE qualified ESCOs. They actually have a list of 101 for DOE sites. There's 6 of those active in Tennessee. Only one of those responded, and it was us. So we have the credentials of those 2 organizations, and we're the only one of those, out of those 2, who responded. We are a true engineering company and not a marketing or sales company. We're surrounded by engineers and HVAC technicians, and that's who we are. Strong local presence. City of Rockwood, we're currently working with the Rome County schools on a project like this to upgrade all of the schools in Rome County. Knox County government, another close local reference. Another little tidbit, we're partnering with Rome County schools for HVAC certification programs at Harriman High School and Rockwood High School, just launched this year. There's HVAC classes for the juniors and seniors at those 2 high schools if they want to become HVAC technicians. You know, that's one of our huge businesses, and we have a hard time finding qualified HVAC technicians. So we'd like to grow them here locally in your school systems and work on dual credit enrollment opportunities with our local TCATs so that we can hire those kids. The train difference. Run.
So this bullet means a lot. We engineer everything we do. We don't just change light bulbs. We're going to do a professional engineered lighting project. World-class training, because that leads to ownership. Talked about the annual reconciliation. Any controls we do is all open protocol. We're the only manufacturer that actually, when we say open protocol, it's open protocol. You're never stuck. Okay. Measurement and verification, we talked about that. Partnership for future grants, building construction. So there's a whole lot of benefit that comes out of working with Train and the series of audits that we do, because going forward, we have a baseline for the city of Kingston. And so anything that you wanted to do, whether it was a change in operational hours, or you wanted to expand a building, or you wanted to change the way this looks, we actually have models, and we can tell you exactly what the financial impact is before you ever do it. And those services are all there for you to support. It's one contract, one contact, total accountability. There's no finger pointing. It's just plain and simple. We talked about, your choice on equipment and platforms, world-class building commissioning in-house. We have a world-class building commissioning agent who is within Train here in Knoxville. A gentleman by the name of Kimball Blake. And hey, we have a track record right here in Rome County. A good track record. Single source responsibility, nobody likes that.
us as the company works for, and after that, we have to do a feasibility study. There's no cost for that. And as Owen shared before, if we do our preliminary audit, there's no cost for that either. There's only a cost after you get to the investment grade audit, which is an ASHRAE level 3 audit. And that's when we would put together contract documents, guaranteed contract amounts, guaranteed contract savings, and then the fourth step would be finalizing the contracts and begin the project implementation. And during all this is like when you dig in on those grants and find out exactly what can happen and when and the timing after, as the audits are going on, some of us are digging in on those grants.
So just to make sure I understood you correctly, so you go through the preliminary audit, and we made the commitment, which took you on to the investment grade audit. If by chance you got to that point and you said, you know what, all of our preliminary work was wrong, the savings aren't there for you, then there's still no financial commitment. We're not stuck in a project that's not gonna have a savings.
Correct.
I mean, which you know, obviously I'm sure that would be very rare for that to happen, but
I can think of 3 times. Cobb County Schools, Sevier County
Not as
Government,
rare
Johnson
as you
University.
might think. That's why we do such an extensive preliminary
Yeah.
audit on our dime. It's, again, it's very uncomfortable to be in a situation where you weren't thorough enough on the front end, and then you got the investment grade audit and it didn't turn out so great. So we pitched that upstream at Train 10, 12 years ago, and they agreed. And so since then, like if you issue a letter to Train saying you're selecting us as your ESCO, that gives Nancy and I what we need to marshal resources to go do a thorough enough job that we're gonna be able to show you what this program can look like before you ever spend a dime or commit to spending a dime. And if you make the commitment and we do the investment grade audit, which is, there's a significant amount of modeling and we get some third-party engineers involved, if it doesn't pan out, we're on the hook.
And that's important. I think that's a good level of safeguard, because you don't want, not that you all would do this, but you could see conceivably where a preliminary audit would almost be just a puff piece, and then we get in. So I think.
Well, and I think in part of our, in our RFP response, there's a copy of our standard letter to proceed. And in the letter to proceed, it says, we're choosing you, and we know there's no cost associated with what you're getting ready to do.
Right.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just go on to say, so we are approaching around $400 million worth of state of Tennessee. And we've done that in the last 15 years. Our goal is we would want the city of Kingston as a golden reference. And our entire team works really, really hard to make that happen. If we have to lose money to make that happen in a project like that, that's what we're gonna do. In other words, we want it to happen. We are conservative, we're very careful. We may take a little longer to get something done because we wanna make sure it's right, okay? Because here's the thing, once you put that street light 30 foot in the air, or you put that ball field light up there on an 80-foot pole, it's a whole lot more expensive to go back and readdress it than if we had done a little bit more engineering on the ground before we stuck it up there. So, any other kind of things come to mind? This can sound complicated and daunting. For us, this is what we do, so we might either simplify or skip over stuff, and so we would encourage you to ask questions.
Or use too many acronyms.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame from start of the project till we start seeing lights and stuff? I know it's a ballpark figure, but I'm kind of trying to get a good estimate. 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year.
No, that's a great question. So we can probably do the feasibility here in a 30-day window. Preliminary audit is gonna proceed. Kingston's gonna run about 90 more days. So now you're 120 days in. At that point, you could make some decisions, like if you wanted to move fast on streetlights, type of auditing is done, you can separate it over here and fast track it, okay? So, our normal process, you'd have 30 days in a feasibility, you'd have another 90 days in a preliminary, and another 90 days to do an investment grade audit, and then we'd go through contracts for another 30 days, and then we would be going to work. You could streamline that, cut 90 days out of it, if you had something that was pressing, you know. There are some companies out there that want to move quickly into the investment grade audit where they're getting paid, and you know, that's a way to do it. That's a faster track, but it puts the risk on you because you're going to pay for an audit, and you know, regardless of the results of the audit, you're paying for the audit.
So realistically, if we made a commitment in January, lights could be going up by June, by summer.
Yeah, by summertime, yeah.
Okay. You guys got any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown?
We talk about street lights. What are street lights? What do y'all consider street lights?
Yeah. So, you want to?
I mean, like the pictures that we had, you're talking about the overhanging lights.
Yeah.
Does that encompass also traffic signalization lights?
We will look at traffic signals, we will look at street lights. Basically, what we'll do when we start auditing, we're gonna work with you guys to figure out what you're paying utility costs on, and we're gonna go put eyes on it.
Okay. Rockwood Electric Utility owns every single street light that we have in Kingston.
Yep.
So that means that we've got to buy those from them.
Yep.
And then we've got to buy new street lights because, like you said, the new ones are flat, 3 or 4 inches, where the other ones, we've got different ones, bulbs and all that. Then I noticed in the picture, like there upper left, we've got some lights like that throughout that just went up. So those all change. Is that something that those fixtures would change and the bulbs change and retrofit?
Yeah, so let me kind of walk you through that a little bit. So right now, when you talk about street lights, the utility owns the pole, they own the light. They're charging you, it's called an investment charge, if you will. They're charging you for undepreciated assets, okay? Including in there is, you know, maintenance and repair costs, you know, what happens if somebody crashes and hits a pole, you know, so on and so forth. And they're billing you for consumption based on a TVA formula for the type of lamp that's in that luminaire, okay? So what happens is, we do an audit, we get a count of light fixtures, we get a feel for the age of those fixtures so that we can figure out where they're at on the depreciation curve. Basically what happens is, your buyout of your street lights is the undepreciated asset. And so, you know, maybe it's $200,000, okay? That goes into the cash flow model, whether we account for that expenditure.
Okay.
So, going back, you're gonna buy new street lights from us installed, okay? And now they're gonna go back up on Rockwood Utilities electric poles. Now you guys are gonna turn into Comcast, and you're gonna buy pole space from them back.
Or
Okay?
from the telephone company.
Yep, yep,
So there's more telephone poles than there are utility poles, more than likely in Kingston.
yep. So
And it's like $9 and something a pole a year, if
we have to sort
Yeah.
through what your rental space is gonna be.
which is a new expense.
It's a new expense.
That's not included in the initial figure that we're gonna get.
Well, it will be included.
Okay.
So what'll
Okay.
happen is,
If we got 100 poles and you're gonna figure rental on 100 poles,
Everything.
no matter who it goes to.
you got it. So what's gonna happen is on the top, and I mean, we could put a spreadsheet up there and show you. So on the top is all your credits. So you get your energy credit, your investment
Okay.
charge credit, you know, any energy credits associated within the facilities, any operational savings, so on and so forth. And And then you go on down the cash flow model, and now you start with your new expenses, okay? And so your new expenses are, you're gonna have a principal and interest payment on the whole project itself. You're gonna have, maintenance on your new street lights. For the first 10 years, it's gonna be very minimal because there's a 10-year parts and labor warranty on it. But then after 10 years, it goes up a little bit. You're gonna have a, call it a pole rental fee, okay? You're gonna have some measurement and verification costs.
We could access the Rockwood cash flow.
See, they're just a little bit different because the city of Rockwood, who you did this for, owns the utility
Well,
in a roundabout way.
They treated it as if.
yeah, understand though, they treated it on paper completely separate. So in other words, you had to count for
Right,
every
the
dollar.
maintenance that you're talking about, who does that
So,
during the first 10 years that it's under the warranty, and then for the next 10 years after that we're trying to recoup?
so Rockwood chose to, they wanted peace with Rockwood Electric Utility, and so they encouraged us to talk with REU to see if we could hire them as our installing contractor to do the actual light replacement. And City of Rockwood retained Rockwood Electric Utility as their maintenance provider.
Okay.
Okay? It actually worked out great. It was actually one of the smoother ones. Because you could imagine, if you go through this and all of a sudden, you know, we bring in a Pike Electric to start replacing the lights that REU's been maintaining for years, whatever, it can get a little.
We've all got to play in the same sandbox here.
Yeah, and listen, you guys' very own Jason Jolly, you know, Larry Brackett, Jason Jolly, and Kendall himself, I mean, they were great to work with. They really were, and they're great to continue to work with after the fact. But again, I'm gonna go back to, it's your program, and we're gonna take guidance from you as to how you'd really like to put it together. We're gonna bring all of the data and help you sift through it and put something together that makes the most sense, but in the end, it's your program, and you wanna be happy with it.
Okay, go, if I may, Mr. Mayor, go one step further, let's talk about, ball field lighting.
Mhm.
You know, we got one ball field that it's hard pressed for us to have district tournaments in, and, nighttime after 7 o'clock, after 5:30, this time zone, because the, base lines are not lit enough to adequately, and those lights are probably 40, 50 years old maybe.
Probably.
Yep.
And probably can't even get the bulbs, can't get the condensers, can't get
Yep.
the elements and all that stuff with it. So y'all would actually come in, is that like a sporting good light that's different than a street light?
Absolutely. Yep. We use the Epsis product from Eaton Cooper. We probably use the Lumos Sport 8, which is the latest, greatest thing. And you can set them up. You can have ball fields these days that have RGB lights and they have scenes, you know, there's a touchdown and there's, or you can just be simple on and off lighting.
Remote control, cell phone, turn them off and on?
You got it. And yes, that's what we did. Right now, we're in the process of auditing 43 ball fields for Knox County schools to put that program together because their lighting is old and it causes them a lot of headaches to go service it. They've got overhead wiring instead of underground wiring and stuff like that.
Question to you, David, with the newest ball field lighting that we have installed in the last 5 years, we're under contract to REU because of a payout. I wonder how that'll work on that particular, or would we not do that one?
That would work, I would assume, just like the street lights, we would negotiate out of that, as part of this process.
You could.
And the same thing with the lighting, it's my understanding, been on this council for a year or two, that we actually own the lights at Gallhart, and we have them serviced, but here at this exit at the 352, the utility company actually owns those and they just charge us for those. And now then they've been up 20 years.
At least.
And the parts they've been hit.
Yep.
Some of the wiring doesn't work. They've got a travel system inside the pole to bring the lights up and down that's not adequate anymore. So I'm just wondering how it would be. It's easy to say we're just gonna put a fixture up there, but I'm assuming all that would be included. If it needs a new,
Yeah.
chain to get the light system down to change the bulbs. And you know, we,
It's all gonna be done to code too.
yeah.
You can't just go out and change them, you know, there's codes that are applicable.
You know, we started this several years ago. We've got Christmas lights that's LEDs.
We took some baby steps.
So think about it this way. So, you know, Nancy and I are here and we represent a segment of Train, you know, Train Energy Services, okay? What we have at our disposal is kinda interesting to kinda get your arms around. So like when we go to do these audits, there's a ton of people gonna show up, you know? And there'll be a lead project developer and a lead energy engineer that'll be directing traffic, they'll put out schedules and everything. And we're gonna have ball field experts go look at ball fields, we're gonna have street lighting experts look at street lighting, we're gonna have building experts crawl through your buildings, you know, things like that.
It's just Owen and I standing here, but the team that we work with,
Right.
smartest guys I've ever known.
So procedural wise, David, they're here tonight. You had 2 to respond to the RFP. You've got 1 scheduled for the December work session.
Mhm.
Then we come back together, I would assume, and yay or nay, one or the other.
Mhm.
And then we have a meeting, I guess, Mr. Mayor, to decide we can't do it all because the other company that we don't choose isn't gonna go through all this, so it's gonna be kinda hard to
Yeah, so if we had,
compare.
you know, if we had the 2, you know, November workshop, December workshop, you know, conceivably, you know, as soon, from your standpoint, as soon as the December meeting, you could, you know, make a decision. And again, it's not gonna be just because of the differences in the company and the services, it's not gonna be an apples to apples comparison, you know, and so you just have to decide. But I think, you know, one thing that you're talking about, once we made that commitment is, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but you're not gonna leave any stone unturned. You're not just gonna look at street lights and ball field lights. You know, if you find a deficiency at the water plant
Yeah.
where some savings can be, you're gonna look comprehensively. And
Understand, unless you tell us differently. In
Yeah.
other words, our default running rules are, we're gonna try to put together a budget neutral program for you, and we're gonna wanna by default look at anything and everything that impacts your operating costs.
But we have to decide that.
Yeah, cause
If you say it's everything.
if you say you want us to look at everything, that's what we're gonna do. If you say, no, I don't want you to look at that, then we're not gonna look at it.
well, I think when they come in, you know, if we said, okay, we're gonna go with you, they come in, they do their audit, again, you have that threshold where you're budget neutral, and then, you know, you definitely wanna get the most bang for your buck that you can there. You don't wanna leave anything on the table. When you get beyond that, then that may be where we have to say, well, okay, you know, this looks great, but we can't do that right now, but we might plan for it for the future. But I would think from our standpoint, as long as we're budget neutral on it, do as much as we can, because.
Mhm.
And what I was looking at, we've got a new air conditioning system in this building,
Mhm.
so that would be on down the list, even
Mhm.
though until the warranty or something run out on it, I would assume.
Yeah.
But I would think that the signalization, which I think, we just changed ours where I work, the signal lights, and they came in and changed the bulbs in them, did something, and, oh man, you can really tell the difference as how much it goes out. It's really a safety issue, to be real honest with you.
Yep.
And then look at the ball fields, because we know that we've already, Hathaway promised to do something with those. And then start coming on down, and that would give them something to start on if we could add on after we get to wherever this neutral place is. So I guess the council would have to decide which project we want them to do at a meeting after we decide
Which company to go with.
which company. Am I thinking right?
Yes, I think so.
You know, to go along with what you said, you would come in, let's just say January, say this was up for a vote in January, council vote says, okay, we're gonna go with Train. And you would come in and do your preliminary audit, you'd start doing your audit work where you'd start identifying these savings, and then you would come back to council, come back to us and say, okay, here's everything we found.
Yep.
You know, everything from this side of the table, you know, the project would pay for itself. You get into this other stuff, that gets beyond it. So we would have that information if we wanted to say, okay, then we could say to you, okay, do everything that you've identified that the savings will pay for,
Yep.
and don't do any of this other stuff right now.
And
So
there'll
that-
be a cost associated with that investment grade audit, but you're the one telling us what you want us to do before we do anything that's gonna cost you any money.
Right.
So there would be a lot of involvement between the time that we say, okay, we're gonna go with you, and when actually work's being done, there's gonna be a lot of back and forth with council on those decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys will need to decide, to what level you want council involved in some of the, what we call vetting meeting stuff. And let me just explain. So, you know, you take City of Kingston, we do an adequate preliminary audit, we're gonna come back with, 300 or 400 lines of data that's gonna be all scoped out and priced out.
It might not be that, there's not that many buildings.
Well,
So
okay.
I'm the one, in other words, I'm the one that gets to read those spreadsheets.
You're probably gonna get the first crack at it, and then you decide just how bad, you.
You can expose them to
Right.
as much or as little of it as you feel comfortable.
Right. I'm not suggesting that you don't share it, it's just, it may not be the best use of everybody's time to take some of the first passes at all that, and kinda condense it.
Well, I think, and again, I'm not speaking for council, but, from our standpoint at the staff level, obviously everybody wants new street lights. We want to do the ball field lights, a lot of the low hanging fruit. But if there are other things, when you start getting outside of this building, you're looking at a inventory of buildings that are all old, have a lot of aging HVAC, things like that. I mean, yeah, we're not gonna be able to knock all of that out with the savings from these lights, but if you can knock some of it out, then you're fixing it with free money. And I think that's the biggest thing from my standpoint that we wanna see. Anytime you're adding to your expenditures, it's precarious when you're in a small government. But, if you have savings on the table that might pay for some of this stuff, I mean, we're not gonna get the Sears catalog and buy everything we want.
Right.
But, if there's a few things in there that you can get without, without new money, I think that's all stuff worth looking at, so that's just my 2 cents.
Anything else? Jessica, anything? You good?
Yeah, the only thing would it be possible for me to get a copy of your slides, electronic copy, so I can share with the ones that weren't here tonight?
Yeah.
If that's, cause we
I'm
have.
looking and you're like, you're not giving me your nod.
Okay, or I can give you their email addresses if you'd rather send it directly to them. We just had 3 that weren't here tonight that might like to see these,
I'm
so.
good just sending it directly to you, that's okay.
Okay, that'd be fine.
All right, well, thank you guys very much. We appreciate all the information.
So
Thank you.
I don't know if the plan was for us to,
Power down.
disassemble and.
We do whatever, we can go on doing our thing.
You won't bother us a bit. All right, number 4 is discussion of adoption of resolution 2011-10-1, a resolution to establish an updated occupational safety and health program plan, devise rules and regulations, provide for a safety director and implementation of such program plan. Mr.
So,
City Manager.
this is something you all may remember doing. We have to do this every 7 years, and it's that time again. Basically, we're readopting the same thing we passed, with some additions that have changed since that time that the state's mandated. All this is mandated that we do that. As part of the process, we also have to appoint a safety coordinator. Brad Goss in the fire department, who has been very instrumental on our safety committee, has agreed to serve in that capacity, and I think he do an outstanding job. Again, this is something we have to do. It's just that time, but I think in talking with the fire chief and talking with Brad, I think through this we can maybe find some areas that can benefit all departments, and he'll work well with them to try to make some safety improvements. But the basis of this is this resolution we have to pass once every 7 years.
Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, we'll add that to the agenda. Number 5, discussion of adoption of resolution 2011-10-2, a resolution to adopt a Kingston ADA transition plan.
So we had, as you remember, last month we had Brian Hill in, gave you a presentation. We put the draft plan out for public review. We didn't get anything back, so we have that in final form, and it's ready to pass. The deadline to have these done is the end of the year.
December 31st.
That may end up being extended because of COVID, but our goal was to get it done by the deadline, and we're able to do that.
Okay.
So.
All right. Any questions on that one? All right. Another discussion of ordinance 2011-10-1, ordinance to amend the budget appropriation for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021.
So Michelle wasn't able to be here tonight, but basically what we're doing now that we're in the process of starting to do the greenway repairs, getting that money in, we just need a line in the budget, put the money in that comes in, the money that comes out, just to
Okay.
keep it clean. So,
Okay.
Right.
you know, we try to not have to amend the budget unless it's just necessary, but this is just to make it easier to track. So if we have to show later, okay, we got X number of dollars in, here's exactly where it came in, here's exactly, so we're not spending out of other line items. So that's all this is.
Okay. Any questions on that one? All right, next discussion, the appropriation not to exceed 10,000 from the 300 capital fund for the completion of the Southwest Point indoor batting facility. I asked David to put that on the agenda. With the money that we received from the state of Tennessee, there was $158,000, and that's in line item 300 capital
Yes,
fund.
we put every bit of that in the capital fund.
I guess we talked about treating this money like the TVA image repair money, and certain different projects we wanted to look at and enhance. So that's what I wanted to see about taking some money out of that to get that indoor batting facility done. Got anything?
I guess the question I'd have is, because I've had multiple amounts, is 10,000, is that?
May not be quite that much. I know when Chase and I talked, he was more around the 7,000 or 8,000. My thought was just in case, you know, maybe put it not to exceed 10,000. So if it were to run a little over, and one of the things that we've talked about, you know, normally we have a lot more inmate access to inmate labor, skilled labor.
Right.
You know, with COVID and having trouble getting folks out, we've had to pay for more labor than we might otherwise had to, so that's run our cost up a little bit. You know, I'm afraid that a couple of things. One, obviously, you know, a lot of people very generously given to this, and we appreciate that. You know, I don't want to see us end up in a point where we've raised about all we can, and then the project sits there 3/4 of the way done. Another thing is it's not going to be very long until we have to start raising money for the 4th of July.
Right.
And when you have a limited base of people to raise money from, you know, maybe take a little breather before we have to shift gears to that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we could do it, and Chase seems confident in those numbers, and go ahead and get this thing finished so it's ready for baseball season.
So, do we have an idea how long it will take to complete?
The trusses are 5 weeks out, so if we ordered them tomorrow, 5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Once we get the trusses installed on there, it should go pretty quick. We've got the plywood that's been donated. We've fundraised enough to buy the metal for the roof. So it's just labor to get that up. I've got some cost breakdowns I'll give y'all once we're through. We've saved a lot of money with different businesses and companies that have donated block, sand, mortar, rebar, gravel. We've saved a lot more than we've spent. A lot more.
This is gonna be about a $45,000 facility, and the city's gonna have about $16,000 in it.
That's good.
Okay.
And again, the block laying, Chase had the Morgan County or Spakes' people back when he had his masonry crew
Yeah.
could have laid the block. Now
Sure.
they can't.
Yeah.
You know, again, he's begged and borrowed for the garage doors, the doors that go in it, the electrical wire that goes in it, the gravel that went on the pad, and what he's had to pay for is the finishing of the concrete, the laying of the brick.
So you think finished product would be done if you're saying,
Before New Year's.
That'd work out good.
And I gave Chase my $100 today in case anybody else wants to donate $100.
I think I pledged my new niece to go to Rome County High School to get the lights down there.
And if we don't, another thing that I talked to David about this afternoon, you know, I'm so afraid that if we don't get it under roof,
Yeah,
and
that's
if
what I was
we leave
thinking.
it'll
Yeah.
get vandalized.
right,
Because, you know, when the block go up, the trusses and the roofs help hold all that stuff together, and if they get in there and start beating on and vandalizing it, if it sets over winter time, and now then if we can get it done in 3 months, it'll be there time for softball, baseball, travel ball,
Right.
And this year, the softball team, even the middle school, is playing the same time the high school softball's playing. So they're gonna be, I feel sorry for Chase, they're all gonna be coming in wanting to use that one field.
Mhm. Well, I think this kind of goes in line with what we're trying to do with the fields in general. So you're gonna have, if we can get the lighting done and then this is complete, and it's kind of like it vamps up that whole area that has had needed attention for some time. You know, it's kind of been neglected.
One question we've had, I've had a couple people ask me, and just to clarify, you know, this will be a public facility.
Yeah.
Obviously, certain groups are gonna use it more than others, but Chase and I have already talked a little bit about what the process would be.
Mhm.
You know, if a dad wanted to take his son down to do some batting practice, and we would reserve that just like we would any other facility. Now, you know, we'll have to go through TML to, you know, cover all the liability issues and that sort of thing, and we will. But, you know, a lot of people, just so folks know, you know, this will be a public facility that anybody in the community could use, so.
It's not just for the high school, not building it for the high school.
Yeah.
It's just like a pavilion, just like the bathrooms, the
Like a
walking
baseball
trails.
field, everything.
You know, we may create a pecking order that if
Yeah.
it's 2 hours before a softball game or 2 hours before a home baseball game, that those high schools is privy to it before a game. But then when nobody's using it on Saturday, you know, you rent it out to somebody. And, you know, tell them, I told Chase that, I said, you know, if we get it finished, they can't leave their pitching machine in there, they can't leave all their baseballs and all their stinking clothes. When they come in, it's clean, when they leave, it's clean. So that the next person can utilize it.
Yeah. Anything else on that, Ms. Stockton? You? All right, nothing else on that. We'll go to number 8, discussion of appropriating funds for the installation of new roofs at community center and the fire hall. Ms.
So-
Stockton. Oh,
So this obviously, as you all know, has, and I'm just kind of segueing into it, and then I'll give you the floor. You know, this has been an ongoing problem. It's come to light, obviously, with early voting and the 3 inches of rain we got the other day. Certainly put it on the forefront. Also, you know, ties into the conversation we just had with Train about some possibilities there. But we know we have roof issues. The community center and the fire hall being our worst two. We do have some information in here from a quote we got on the community center. The same company is going to give us probably in the next week or so a quote. They're going to come down and look at the fire hall. Again, it's not as bad, but we'll have that information to you when we get it. We just don't have it right now. So, and Vice Mayor, I'll let you have the floor. I just wanted to kind of introduce that. So.
Well, my concern on the roof leaks is just, you know, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. You don't remember it until it starts raining. I mean, and just being in business where you have roof leaks that seem to happen all the time, if you do not fix it, a permanent fix, and the way that our issues of the roof leaking at the community center is going to have massive damage. That's, I mean, it is going to cost us so much money, so much more than a roof would be. And of course, it'd be the same thing with the fire hall. I mean, I think just the pictures alone brings up issues of safety is my number one thing. And that's why you think of the community center first, because that being open to the public. But then, of course, at the same time, I think of the fire hall, you know, that also interferes with their training. Can't even train on a rain day. So, I mean, all these things are something I think we have to put priority before a want would be a need.
You know, we've been, and I don't know how old some of you guys may know. I'm sure both of those roofs are probably 25 plus years old, if I had to guess. You know, it's always been a situation, you know, obviously when you're talking about, you know, 100,000 and some change for the community center, not quite as much for the fire hall because you don't have as much roof space there, but, you know, you're looking at significant expenditures, and it's tough to come up with that kind of money. I think one good thing about right now is whether you look at it, you know, to roll it in a project like this, or you look to just go ahead and fund it, you know, we have a couple options where we're not taking on new expenditures, not coming out of our operating budget.
Right.
You know, we do have the $158,000 that we set aside of the state money. We have some other capital money that's, the $100,000 for Ladd Park. Point being, we've set up a capital fund for this. We just got $87,000 in today for CARES Act reimbursement. And of course, that's money we spent, but we got that much back and that, we're going to put that in the capital fund. So, the hats off to you all for making those decisions and setting that fund up. But so it's possible that, we can pay, and that's been our goal for a while, to be able to pay for things like this when they come up without having to just go borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're fortunate to be in that position. It's just a matter of how urgently you all want to address this.
I guess my question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. My big concern here on the community center roof is it's majorly a safety issue, I think, and I got multiple calls and texts this week with early voting going on, and they were saying that voters were standing down there one day waiting to vote in puddles of water, and that the election people were just really unhappy that the roof was leaking onto the voting machines. And I think with it being open to the public and us using it as a voting precinct, that we definitely need to get on this right away while we have the money available to do it. That's my thinking.
And it could be that we look at, because it is the most urgent, maybe we look at the community center now, and then through something like this audit that Train's going to do, then maybe we look at the fire hall, and who knows, maybe the water plant here, wherever else they identify those needs. But definitely of all of our facilities right now, the community center is by far the worst. So
you're going to get back with us and tell us about the bids for the community center?
Well, and that's a question that I have for Sandy now. We have the 108,000, and we actually got a couple of quotes. That's by far the best. But because of the nature of the damage, because how bad the leaks are, you're getting into safety issues. Is this something, in your opinion, that we could consider an emergency expenditure and not bid out? Is that where are you on that?
I'm cautious about not bidding,
Mm-hmm.
because you're talking about no more than 15 or 30 days
Sure.
to have it bid anyhow. And
Yeah.
while you like to do that, I'm afraid that might trigger an audit
Mm-hmm.
finding.
What about if we put it on the agenda to authorize the city manager to start the bid process?
We could do that.
And that way they'll give him time to
That'll
talk
catch
to
up.
somebody else anyway.
Yeah, that'll get
And
him.
not to try to award it and then come back. If we
Yeah.
got good prices, we can always have a special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you all vote, whether it be 2 weeks or whatever, if you vote next week for us to put it out to bid, we'll be ready to go with bid specs,
Okay.
and we'll get that out there. So the delay will be minimal.
Mr. Childs?
We may want to look at another thing. I know, how long has that thing been leaking? 20 years?
Probably.
There's probably some mold issues in there that might need to be addressed during this time too. Something, because we go put a new roof on and then it comes back, it's got so much mold in it, another $250,000 for mold. I mean,
We put a new roof on it about 20 years ago.
I think so.
okay, well, I remember it was leaking 20 years ago. I couldn't remember if there'd been a roof put on since then. But like I said, everybody's looking at it, and you go through and you can see when we were down early voting, I mean, there's leaks everywhere. And then some of that rot on some of the wood that was in these pictures right here. I mean, if they've got mold, I mean, the mold issue could be as big a problem as the roof.
And I know you may deal in facilities, know more about this, but I know that once you get your leak problems fixed, I guess ionization, or I mean, there's companies that can come in and kill,
That's what I'm talking
can do that
about. I mean,
type of work. So
Yeah, and that's something that you would definitely.
because that'd be more of a safety issue than the raining.
100%. And I mean, in any case like that, if you've had any kind of water leak, because I mean, it's not going to go away. You
No.
need to fix it. And that's the thing that I was most concerned about, is that, when you prioritize, I mean, there's all kinds of wants, but when it becomes safety, I mean, that's the priority.
Yeah. And that one's been patched.
Way too many times.
Yeah.
And then we need to keep everybody off of it.
Mhm.
when we get it fixed. You don't go up there walking around and take that flagpole down, put it somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, there shouldn't be anybody on the
Should
roof.
be nobody
Mm-mm.
up there other than servicing the conditioner and stuff.
Mhm.
But you know, I don't wanna say that it's not bad, but a lot of times when you get as much rain as we got, that's got metal trusses in it, and that water, if it leaks one place, it's gonna run. It
Yeah.
looks like there's holes everywhere. I mean, you know.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's gonna
Mhm.
run those trusses
Mhm.
and leak 5 places where it just leaks in one place.
Well,
Yeah.
and the bad thing about that is that just goes back to the point, you know, if you don't fix it,
Yeah.
you know, how much damage are we doing
Gonna
inside?
get worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be
When we
compounded.
fixed it the other time, we were meeting there at city council, and we had buckets up where the council sat catching the water during the council meetings.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll put that on agenda to go ahead and request for bids for that,
Okay.
for Tuesday night. All right, that's all we've got on agenda. I'll go around. Mr. Childs, do you have anything?
It was nice to see the lights working out of Galahad Road. All of them are working, as far as I could tell this morning and tonight.
Oh, okay.
That looked really good, lit up out there.
I think there's still a couple, maybe westbound coming
Well,
down
we
toward
had
the
some of
exit.
the poles that had no lights on when I
Yeah.
called you about that and was asking, but, tonight, every one of them's actually got at least 3
Yeah,
or
all
4
all
working.
the exit lights are working. I think one of the approaches, and I think it might be the westbound approach, maybe has 1 or 2 that are still out, but
In the ball field, I know we got the new light fixtures. Did they get the bulbs for the ball
I
field?
think they said they had to reorder some, they haven't been back out there since.
Okay, they got the new light fixtures up. That
Okay.
should light up the field tremendously.
They were out there Wednesday, I think.
But they got the wrong bulbs come in for it, for the fixtures, and they had to, do some changing, cause the brackets were different. But that should light up at third base too, shining over that way, right? I'm
Yeah.
looking at you.
David,
You.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that.
yeah, I think
Those
it'll make a
lights,
big
those
difference.
4 that they put in on the first base side will shine over, cause we had the dark spot where the pole's missing on the third base
Mhm.
side. So when they get the bulbs in, we're going to, supposed to let me know, and we can go down there at nighttime and
Yeah.
light it up and see
Okay.
what it looks like.
Good. All right, anything else?
That's it.
Terry, you have anything?
Well, I hope that everyone has been by the lake to be able to see the veteran banners that
Mhm.
went in. Got tons and tons of people that have just complimented how well that they look, and I think this will be ongoing. That it'll be exciting to be able to add to. Have other cities that are wanting to join in and honor veterans as well in their area. So that's something I think that will be a annual thing that we do. And then in addition, we had a project that we've been doing for Christmas that we're excited to say that you'll see an addition that will be added to our new lights that I think everyone's going to enjoy is a new 12 Days of Christmas that we've got. And I think that coming into Kingston will really be something to see. I think it'll be really neat, and so many people have participated in
Local
either
skill.
yes, whether it's been painting or welding. It's just been a really joint effort that I think is going to be really awesome. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Mr. Round, do you have anything?
Just 2 or 3 little things. Chase, they've set the Christmas parade. I didn't know for sure. I think we talked about it. It's
Yep.
the 30th.
The 30th.
So just put that on your calendar. And then the governor put out an executive order extending masks and all that stuff through the 30th. But Thursday, he put out another executive order that allows us to meet and participate in a meeting. If this was a meeting and Becky's on there, she could vote. They clarified that, is my understanding of it. I sent it to David to pass it on to Sandy, but that's the way I understood that. Also, just to let you know, tomorrow's election day. I'm assuming everybody's voted. If you've not voted, we appreciate running unopposed, but still, we've got an election. And on that note, there's 4,200 registered city voters, and out of that, 2,300 of them have already voted. So we're at 54%
That's good.
of the citizens have voted. Our property rights voting has not gone as well. We've got they purged some of those since the last city election. For moving out of town, they didn't meet the criteria. We got 46 according to the election commission, we got 46 people that take advantage of property rights. As of last week, only 17 had turned those back in. Remember, we mail those directly
those
to
to
them,
them,
and
yeah.
they send them back in. So they've either thrown them away or whatever. And then my next question is, what kind of deal are we gonna have for the swearing in deal? When are we scheduling that? Is it gonna be before a council meeting, or
Well, let's see.
is that something we can set?
December 1st is on a Tuesday, which will be a work session night. We could probably do it before the work session. Will that be okay?
Well, just wanting to know. I've got, the person that I've selected to swear me in needs to know when it is ahead of time.
You're awful confident about winning, aren't you?
Huh?
You're awful confident about winning, aren't you?
Yeah,
So we're
I-
saying
I
December
voted.
3rd,
December 1st.
1st.
The 1st is our Tuesday night work session.
Oh, I'm looking at November. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do the swearing in at 5:30. That be enough time?
Just need to know.
I think so.
Yeah, we'll decide on the time between now and then and make sure it's got it right.
Okay,
Is that it for you?
that's it.
Miss Becky, do you have anything?
No, sir, I'm good.
All right, thank you. David, you got anything?
Just a couple things just to update you. I know it's kind of out of sight, so it's hard to see, but the work on the Greenway repairs is underway. Tim's crews have done a great job up there, and still got some work to go, but it's progressing well. So just wanted to give you a little update on that, and I had something else in my head, and it's gone now. So when it comes back to me, I'll send you something out on that. But
We'll get an email in about an hour.
there you
All right.
go.
Nobody's got anything else, and we'll call this a night and be back next Tuesday.